Good evening, Lincolnwood School District 74, families, community, students, alumni, staff, friends, and neighbors. Thank you for joining us this evening to celebrate the district's 75th anniversary. We are so excited to have you here at our school this evening, and we hope you enjoy every moment. Lincolnwood Boy Scouts Troop number 72 will be starting us off tonight with the presenting of colors.
Troop attention, color guards, forward march. Halt. Color guards, post the colors. Everyone, please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Those not in uniform, please place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2.
At this time, please remain standing as we welcome Lincoln Hall's very own Ellie Evans to sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you.
Troop dismissed.
Great job, and thank you, Ellie. This is just one example of the great talent that stems from our Lincolnwood community. We would now like to introduce Miss Christina Odishu, Lincolnwood School District 74 Communications Coordinator, to the podium.
Good evening, and thank you for coming to Lincolnwood School District 74's 75th anniversary celebration. We are so glad to have you here and welcome Judge Garland. As a resident of Lincolnwood myself, I have always said that there is something special about our village, and after arranging this event, I think I can safely say that my statement can be claimed as fact. Today, in this audience, we have alumni from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and up to the Lincoln Hall class of 2019 who have yet to graduate. We also have former board members, retired teachers, and guests who have traveled from as far as Florida and California just to be here with us this evening. It is not every day that you find an elementary school district that remains so special to not only a select few individuals, but the whole community and village at large. I would like to just take one moment of your time and thank the community members who volunteered their time and effort with me and with my team and proposed so many great ideas in the 75 years planning group meetings throughout the last few months. This group consists of alumni, village and school board members, parents, residents, staff, and retired teachers. Thank you to Elena Garrity, Barb Smith, Georgine Nickel, Lana Christofidis, Barb Pabst, Georgia Theodorakakis, Sue Vecchioni, Sokol Delisi, Maria Ricotta, Cheryl Trilling, Ann Gavastis, and Debbie Novoselsky. Thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this evening.
At this time, please join us in welcoming Dr. Kim Nashin, Superintendent of Schools, to the podium.
Thank you and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Kim Nashin and I am honored to represent Lincoln Woods School District 74 as Superintendent of Schools. To pull off an event like this, there's so many people to thank, so bear with me. Thank you to Mr. John Jones, Mr. Max Green, and Mr. Ryan Mock for providing such beautiful music for us. I don't know where they are. Thank you. Thank you, Boy Scout Troop number 72, for kicking off our evening with the presentation of colors and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Ellie, for the beautiful rendition of the national anthem. I know we all had goosebumps while you were singing. And lastly, a giant shout out to Christina Duccio and the 75th Planning Committee. Without their work, we would not be here today. The committee continues to plan festivities throughout this year. Stay tuned for more information, and thank you very much. We are here today to celebrate the Lincolnwood community, to commemorate 75 years of the Lincolnwood School District, but most importantly, to acknowledge the people that have made this community so incredible. My husband and I have raised our children on the other side of town, and we live in Niles, and we feed into Niles West. My children competed with the Lincoln Hall children. My son dated a Lincoln Hall alum, so we always kept our eye on Lincoln Hall and Lincolnwood. There was definitely something special, as Christina said, so I am honored to be here today. I have served this district for the past 7 years. Together, our wonderful education staff, the administrative team, and the dedicated Board of Education have picked up the momentum of those that have previously served in these roles. A few years ago, we heard from the community as we worked together to create the current strategic plan. Many faces in the crowd were part of that strategic planning committee. This plan was the guiding document for the last 5 years, and we continue to implement the goals and objectives, some of which included the very renovation that you are sitting in today. This winter, we will be asking for your input once again to establish a new set of goals with the creation of the next strategic plan. Watch for ways to become involved. Also, please pay close attention to late October, early November for the official Lincoln Hall open house. By then, the district will be finished with the new Performance Center, formerly the East Gym, and closer to the final touches of construction phase 3. We would love to have you back to continue this year-long celebration. Together, we are here to kick off the 75th anniversary of opening the school doors. In 1943, the staff took each child of Lincolnwood and taught the foundational skills that were needed for future success. The Lincolnwood School District 74 team is honored to carry on this great tradition of educating each child to thrive in their own personal endeavors. The more I learn about the history of the school district and the Lincolnwood community, the more I understand the great pride that is shared by all. When asked about the history of Lincolnwood schools, there isn't anyone with more stories than Barb Smith. Please direct your attention. You're right. All right, let's give her a clap before you even see this. Thank you, Barb. Please direct your attention to a short video clip filled with rich, beautiful memories. Thank you.
Well, a little history of the Lincolnwood School starts probably in 1938 with the election of 3 men as board of directors. They were Mr. Woods, Mr. Carlson, and Mr. Miller. But the construction didn't begin then because at that time the students from Lincolnwood were going to East Prairie or Fairview. But obviously, as time went on, things started to get kind of overcrowded. So it was decided to build the Lincolnwood School. And construction began on, appropriately, Lincoln's birthday in 1943. And they must have worked very hard because if I'm figuring right, 9 months later, in October of 1943, the school was ready for occupancy. At that time, the enrollment probably was around 220, 228 students that began. Later on, of course, as the population exploded in Lincolnwood, 2 more schools were added. Todd Hall in 1956 and Rutledge in 1957. The enrollment now is about 1,200 from pre-K to 8th grade. At the 50th anniversary of Lincolnwood School, the then Mayor Chuley declared a Lincoln Hall School Day. And he wrote then, although 1943 was a time when Americans faced perilous times and had to make many sacrifices, the people of Lincolnwood had faith in the future and confidence in their abilities to win the war and maintain freedom. With that determination, your doors were opened in 1943. The first 8th grade graduating class had about 30 students, and the most recent class in 2018 had a total of 142 students. About the school district, when I was a child and went from kindergarten to 8th grade, I don't think I thought so much about what was special about my school, but in thinking it back, one thing that does strike me is the way the curriculum was presented every year. There seemed to be, and I don't know if teachers call this scope and sequence, I don't know, but it built each year. When my children went here, when my 2 sons went here, I noticed much more that this district was not afraid to try new things and new innovations. Now, I'm not saying they all worked, but they were willing to try to teach better, to learn better. Like the initial teaching alphabet, which was tried to help children. They thought it would help children learn to read faster. The pod approach, where they had 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade kids together. When videos became the thing, I believe Dr. Bearwald had some kind of a studio upstairs at the Ed building. And, of course, computers. When computers started, Lincolnwood was there. And I remember the teachers taking lessons and then the secretaries taking lessons on this new machine. And, of course, we had those floppy disks, the hard disks, and now you have those little things. And now you have STEM, which I admit I don't know a lot about, but it sounds progressive. And the other thing is, through the years, I think for the most part, the residents of Lincolnwood have supported this school district. They know the value of a good school district and, of course, educating children. My sister was in the first graduating class, and she told me about a young man in her class, a fellow classmate. I think his first name was Ken. I don't remember his last name, who wrote a little verse that was like the school song. So it went like this. We are the boys and girls of Lincolnwood, a school that sure is grand. It makes the grade in every test. We think it's the best in the land. Our heads we hold high as our flag passes by, for we're Americans true. Lincolnwood, friend of youth, friend of truth. You're for us, we're for you.
Miss Smith, your video shows how much of a treasure you are to Lincolnwood School District 74 and the Lincolnwood community. Please join us on stage and allow us this opportunity to present you with a token of our appreciation.
I'm sorry. And I'd like to say this in the words of Jimmy Cagney, who played that guy, Yankee Doodle Dandy, Cohen. Some of you know my maiden name, it's Garrick, which is, my dad, my mom, my uncle worked here, and I worked here. And so I thank you from my mother, I thank you from my father, my brothers and sisters, and me. Thank you.
Throughout the years, as we learned in Mrs. Smith's video, this district has maintained its strength and stability under the leadership of elected Board of Education members. This district started under the leadership of Mr. Woods, Mr. Carlson, and Mr. Miller. And today, in this very audience, we have so many former Board of Education members and current board members who have contributed countless hours volunteering their time to ensure that our schools always remain the best that they can be. Lee and myself will one day be able to say that we were the first class of students who went to the school in the newly renovated Lincoln Hall Middle School. That is owed to you, our community, and to the Board of Education members who were able to put this community's vision to life and provide us with these new learning spaces that we use every day. It is our pleasure to welcome to the podium Mr. Scott Anderson, current president of Lincolnwood School District 74 Board of Education.
Good evening, everybody. I think this is also the first time ever we are live streaming an event on YouTube. Of course, you're all here, so you don't know that. But Judge, the bar has been set very high with Barb's presentation. I know it's going to be tough for both of us to step up. For your sake, I'm going to go first because by the time I finish, they will be very happy to see you. So. Welcome to this kickoff celebration of District 74's 75th anniversary. It's an honor to introduce tonight's special guest, Judge Merrick Garland. Before I do that, though, I also want to echo the thanks to Christina for putting on a very nice event. To look around, you'd think that she has a massive department behind her. She is a one-person department. I want to recognize a few village officials who are here tonight. Mayor Bass, welcome. Lincoln Hall class of 72, very good. Trustee Patel. Lincoln Hall class of 89, very good. Trustee Knuckle, good evening. Trustee Halevi, good evening and welcome also. Honorary Jaguar, two children, so welcome, thank you. There are a number of faculty and staff who are here also, and retirees. Could we please join me in thanking them and welcoming them back? Speaking of our community and the service that's been provided to them, as you know, we're completing phase 3 of this project, which feels like it started sometime in the winter of 1943. We missed a terrible opportunity when we started this project. We probably had a desk or locker that belonged to the judge, and it would have been a great eBay opportunity, but we missed that opportunity. By the end of October, we will be completing the East Gym and the flexible auditorium space, and we can't wait for you to come back and see it. This project exemplifies the commitment that this community has historically shown to good education, good schools, for the benefit of the children who are here now and for the benefit of the children who have been here in the past. So on behalf of my board, I thank the community for all of their support. We come here tonight to celebrate our 75th anniversary and to welcome back one of our own, Judge Merrick Garland. Judge Garland, thank you so much for being among us this evening. It says a lot that on a Friday before a holiday weekend, we can pack a room with this many people and in an overflow room downstairs. We thank your wife, Lynn, for joining us, your daughters, Rebecca and Jessica, and your son-in-law, Alexander. Welcome. We're so glad to have all of you here. The lessons we learn from Judge Garland's life are meticulous attention to detail. Read a lot of stories about your clerks who talked about that. Unfailing service to your community and your country. But beyond that, there's another word, and that's kindness. In reading a little bit about the judge, I was struck by this statement from the New York Times. Quote, "One of the frustrations about writing about Judge Garland is that no one seems to be able to find a bad thing to say about him." Are we going to hear someone? No, okay. Even in the onslaught of press coverage that followed your nomination to the Supreme Court, a local reporter tracked down one of your neighbors who said, quote, "Here's a quote you can use. He hasn't caused any trouble." That may not seem like much, but I don't know what my neighbors would say about me or how many of us could have those things said about us, so that's a wonderful testament. At Lincoln Hall, Judge Garland was Student Council President, an American Legion Award winner, and he won what he called the most important but least deserved award, the Golden Hammer Award in shop class. What a title to have if you're a U.S. attorney, though. That's pretty impressive. Growing up, he worked as a stock boy at Berger's Shoe Store. In our deep research, we learned that his favorite restaurants in town were Lou Malnati's and Bones, which I believe is now Elwood's. Patrick, you're welcome for the plug. He graduated West in 1970 and really started what can only be called an impressive upward trajectory. He graduated from Harvard summa cum laude and then went on to Harvard Law School, where he was editor of the Harvard Law Review and graduated magna cum laude in 1977. The story goes that you even sold your comic books to help pay for law school. Some of the people in this room may not know what comic books were, but I understand it to be a big deal. Judge Garland clerked with Judge Friendly in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals and later with Supreme Court Justice Brennan. He then went on to work as a special assistant to the Attorney General, and then he worked in a prestigious law firm in the private sector, earning a partnership in what in my experience would be record time, 4 years. I don't mean this disrespectfully to partners in law firms. I'm a partner in a law firm. But a lot of times partners settle comfortably into that nice office and the other trappings that go with it. But Judge Garland's sense of service did not keep him in that office very long. Instead, he left his firm and took a job as an assistant United States attorney. He quickly moved up the ranks and became a principal associate deputy attorney general. Among many cases, Judge Garland led the investigation and oversaw the prosecution of those responsible for the bombing and murder of 168 people at the Oklahoma City Federal Building. That happened in 1995. In 1996, Judge Garland was selected to oversee prosecution of Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. In 1997, President Clinton appointed Judge Garland to the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. Even while he was a sitting federal appellate judge, he has devoted the past 20 years to helping his community, tutoring 2nd through 5th grade students at J.O. Wilson Elementary School in Washington. Judge Garland has been chief judge of that court since 2013, and in 2016, President Obama nominated Judge Garland to the position of Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court following the death of Justice Antonin Scalia. Judge, in your speech to the country on the occasion of your nomination, you mentioned your mother at home, watching television with tears of pride in her eyes, and that of your sisters, and probably your whole family. I remember one of your daughters was hiking in the mountains. Couldn't be reached by phone. Judge, let me tell you something. I remember that day. I remember what that day meant to a lot of people here. And I can say without reservation, you made us all proud. So without any further commentary from me, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lincolnwood's own Judge Merrick Garland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, that's just the second time I've ever opened a speech that way. I kind of like the sound of it. It's a wonderful introduction, thank you. It is nice to be home. And there's no doubt that Lincolnwood is home. My family moved to the village in 1956. Even after finally moving out after college, I returned to our house on Lunt Avenue every year. My parents lived here until they died in the same house. My mother died just 2 years ago. In 1956, Lincolnwood was comparatively young. There were plenty of open lots in our neighborhoods, all in various stages of construction, and there were lots of young families and lots of kids. My two sisters and I lived 1 block from the village park, which is now called Prosel Park. That was after the mayor for life at the time. So there's something to look forward to here. That's where I went to camp, where I played baseball in the summer. That's where we skated on a frozen field in the winter. There was no swimming pool in the park. There was no village library, and there was no fire department. We rented the fire department from Chicago. Although I did like Bones and Lou Malnati's, neither existed at the time. I'm not sure, I think probably by the time I got to Lincoln Hall, but before that, neither one. Elwood's was just a block from our house. There was no Lincolnwood Town Center either, only Lincoln Village. The Edens Expressway, our lifeline to downtown Chicago, it was there, but it had only opened 6 years before. Childhood was less programmed than it is for you guys. We had long weekend afternoons to ride bikes, sometimes with playing cards clipped to the wheels so they sounded like motorcycles. The toughest decision we had to make on a Sunday night was whether to go to Baskin Robbins or Dairy Queen. I'm for Dairy Queen. Sorry, there's Baskin Robbins here. We played catch, we bowled at Gabby Hartnett's bowling alley, which unfortunately is no longer there, famous Cub, and explored every inch of the very small geographic area that our parents let us travel in without special permission. No crossing of the railroad tracks that ran behind the houses across the street on Kilbourne. Not because the other side of the tracks was any different from our side, but because freight trains ran down those tracks. I think that became rails to trails, and now it's a beautiful trail. Quieter, I'm sure. No crossing of Pratt, Toohey, or Lincoln Avenue either. Wouldn't want to get hit by a car. Of course, all those rules were made to be broken. Apparently my neighbor didn't know that. Especially because it seemed like we had lots of friends always just on the other side of one of those boundaries. And then there were the schools. My parents gave up a lot of things for themselves so that they could move here for good education. The schools with the campus look That's what the sign read on the split rail fence that surrounded Todd and Rutledge Hall. I see it's no longer split rail. It seemed to us that the buildings had been standing forever, but Mrs. Smith has advised me that's only true of Lincoln Hall. Todd, though, was finished just 1 year before I started, so it's possible I was in the first class, maybe the second, and Rutledge wasn't finished until 1 year later. We had all the latest technology in the schools. We had slide rules for mathematical calculations. We had black and white TVs to watch Alan Shepard and John Glenn ride into space, and sorrowfully to watch the news of the death of President Kennedy. We had the greatest teachers. In first grade, Mrs. Goodman, that was Bobby's mom, taught us how to read. In second, Ms. Sawyer taught us more about reading and about arithmetic too. Mr. Dirks gave me my first brush with algebra in junior high. He kindly took pity on a slow learner. Mr. Bargman taught science. His room wasn't as nice as the science rooms that I was kindly just given a tour, but they were wonderful. He let me pursue my science fair project, which involved boiling yeast in gasoline to see if we could grow carbohydrates from hydrocarbons. Gasoline. What were we thinking? It's lucky that there's any part of Lincoln Hall left to renovate. We had great activities. Our school newspaper was the Rail Splitter. Still, maybe? No. Our school yearbook, the Lincoln Log. Yes, good. Our basketball team, I know, the Jaguars. Oh, the Jaguars. My failure to make the team is one of my greatest regrets. And of course, there was the 8th grade relay race, which I would regret if I could remember it. When running for the Illinois State Legislature in 1832, our school's namesake, Abraham Lincoln, said, quote, "Upon the subject of education, I can only say that I view it as the most important subject which we as a people can be engaged in." And it was certainly important to me. The Lincolnwood schools gave me the preparation I needed to succeed in high school at Niles West, and together, Lincolnwood and West gave me the academic grounding I needed for everything I have done since. At the same time, my classmates, my teachers, and the Lincolnwood community instilled in me the values that have underlined and everything I have done. I am proud of the education we received, and I'm proud of the community that made it possible. I know that many of today's newcomers moved here just like my parents did so many years ago to give their children the opportunity to have a first-grade education. Indeed, it is quite clear that the community's tradition of valuing education remains strong. I read that your learning standards now require 8th graders to solve systems of 2 linear equations in 2 variables algebraically. Not sure I know exactly what that means, but Mr. Dirks would know. And I read on your website that your 7th graders are required to bring a Texas Instruments 3012S calculator to school. No calculators for us, only those slide rules. No websites either. But it was not just great education that we received at the Lincolnwood schools that mattered. It was also the way the schools reinforced our sense of community. Lincolnwood was, and I see that it still is, a small village. There were only about 3,000 residents in 1950, increasing to around 12,000 by 1960, and not that many more now, I understand. Our parents were deeply embedded in the community. My mother was the president of the PTA, and later she was the president of the school board. My father was also embedded. He was really embedded. He ran his one-man business out of a room in the basement of our house. But he was also one of the founders of the Lincolnwood Jewish Congregation, where, before the building that now stands on Crawford was built, we attended Sunday school in a fish store on Touhy Avenue. In Lincolnwood, there was almost nowhere we could go where we wouldn't see someone who our parents knew very well. I guess that's why we learned to behave in public. But the schools were really where we came together. Thanks to that campus look, we went to school with the same kids from kindergarten through 8th grade and then all the way on to the much larger Niles West High School. When someone has known you since elementary school, they know you very well. They know who, even if their neighbors don't know, they know who broke the no transistor radios rule in order to listen to the World Series during recess. They know who had to sit in the hallway outside the faculty lounge because he climbed the forbidden snow mountain in the school parking lot. And they know just what you looked like when you tried to do the twist or the hitchhiker or the jerk at Friday night dances at the American Legion Hall. But it also means that when some undeserved honor comes your way, your old Lincolnwood friends fill your inbox, both the physical one and the digital one, with messages of congratulations. More important, when some misfortune comes your way, whether deserved or not, they are the first ones to call, to write, to email messages of sympathy and support. You cannot imagine how welcome those messages are and were. In an 1849 letter to his friend Joseph Gillespie, Abe Lincoln wrote, "The better part of one's life consists of one's friendships. I am lucky to have had such good ones, starting right here in Lincolnwood. As I said when I began, it's nice to be home."
Judge Garland, we would like to first thank you on behalf of the entire community and school district for taking time out of your busy schedule and kicking off the 75th anniversary of Lincolnwood School District 74. Your professional achievements are remarkable, and this village can take pride in knowing that you attended these very schools and were raised in our community. Please accept the first ever Lincolnwood School District 74 Distinguished Alumni Award, presented to you, Judge Merrick Garland, in recognition of your outstanding professional achievements. Distinguished alumni will receive a plaque, and a duplicate plaque will be displayed at Lincoln Hall. We hope that this award is the first of many that will be presented to Lincolnwood School District 74 alumni throughout the coming years. Thank you, Judge Garland.
Thank you for joining us this evening and celebrating Lincolnwood School District's 75th anniversary. It is so nice to see the community gather together and celebrate our wonderful Lincolnwood schools. Again, thank you to Judge Merrick Garland for traveling here and joining us this evening. It was our honor to have you back at Lincoln Hall, and we wish you all the best. At this time, the community is invited to a reception right outside Lincoln Hall, where the judge will also be joining us. Please safely make your way out. Staff members will be available to guide guests out the doors.
I'd just like to make one quick announcement before everybody heads outside. There are frame magnets either on every seat or in front of you, in front of your seat at the main tables. Those are yours to keep. So please take them with you. Thank you.